just as Democrats, I think, are being hypocritical, and we never got back to that, when they keep talking about stimulus, but then they want to raise taxes, I think Republicans are being hypocritical when they keep saying we got to worry about debt and deficit, and yet they want to lower taxes. And I defy you to find a serious study that indicates when taxes were cut. I'm not saying that it didn't stimulate the economy. It has in many cases.
I'm going to give you a serious study.
That's a no-brainer. But I defy you to find. You don't even know the question I'm asking.
I know. I know what it is. Go ahead.
Well, you know, on our show we actually let people answer before we ask the question. But I defy you to find a single serious study that would say that when you cut taxes, you make up more than the decrease in taxes in increased economic growth revenue.
That may be an impossible thing to study.
Well, wait a minute. I thought you said you already knew what I was going to say.
You know Christine Romer is, right?
Yeah, I understand.
Christine Romer is one of their economists.
She said that there is a contractionary effect of raising taxes. I completely agree with that.
And she basically advocating not raising taxes in a time like this.
Well, there's a difference between they're not raising taxes on the middle class. Look, I'm not defending the Obama agenda. All I'm saying is, and you, let's get back to my point. For all of the talk of Arthur Laffer and all the story about supply-side economics, you cannot point to a single tax cut that ended up causing a net positive in tax revenue.
Well,
name one.
But isn't that an impossible thing to find? Isn't that an impossible thing to find? How do you know?
Come on, Charlie. Name one.
How do you know? You can look at all you can do is look at economic activity broadly during periods of times when you had low taxes.
You point one to me where revenue went up more than the cut in tax revenue because of increased economic growth. The answer is you can't find one
because it's an absurd question.
Really? Absurd?
I think it's a crazy question.
Supply-side economics,
No. Supply-side economics. I mean, look at the 1980s. Are you telling me that the budget deficit, the deficit...
The deficit grew in the 1980s.
As a percentage...
I covered Ronald Reagan. I was in the White House.
As a percentage of the overall economy...
Wait a minute.
...shrank.
I'm talking about the actual numbers.
The actual numbers of the percentage, the
numbers.
The deficit as a percentage of GDP
or decreased in the 1980s.
Because as the economy grew, right? As the economy grew, no, Chris.
Did the deficit grow or did it increase, Charlie?
As a percentage of the economy.
No, I'm asking you the actual number. It was $100 billion. Did it get bigger or did it get smaller?
Well, Chris, if I'm making $100 million, right, and I have $1 in debt, and then I'm making $200 million, and I have $2 in debt, has my debt gone up? It's gone up, but not relatively. The economy grew under Reagan.
It's not relative. When you talk about your debt, are you doing it relative to GDP? You're
Chris,
talking about your debt.
No, I am doing it. I'm doing it relative to my salary. $2 in debt.
Look, I can understand you. As I said to Howard Dean 2 weeks ago, facts are inconvenient things. I understand that, Charlie.
Thank you for reminding me that. But if I'm making $200 million, $2 in debt doesn't mean that much to me. The economy grew.
All you're pointing out is that there's never been a case where the deficit has decreased when taxes were cut. The deficit has increased.
I'm pointing out when you
In addition to which, and I'm not, again, I want to make it clear to all those people out there saying, oh, he wants higher taxes. I don't want higher taxes. Let me tell you, I get hit by higher taxes.
You live in New York State, don't you?
And I don't like it. But I don't think that I think that it is hypocritical of both sides when one side says, let's do stimulus, let's stimulate the economy, but let's increase taxes. That's the Democratic hypocrisy. And on the Republican side, it's when they say the deficit is the most important thing. And let me ask you something else, because this has actually been, I mean, there are a lot of economic studies that show the stimulative effect of keeping taxes low, particularly on the highest income, is less. You get about 30 to 40 cents on the dollar of tax cut, as compared to a lot of other programs where you get $1 or $1.50 or $2 for every dollar of stimulus and things like spending on unemployment benefits, simply because of the fact that poor people will spend the money and rich people, in a lot of cases, will save the money
or invest the money. Or put money in their business and employ poor people. I mean, isn't that... I mean,
poor people? I don't know about that.
Well, I'll give you a little example. My dad was a construction worker, was out of work a lot during the 1970s, had a 10 bar. Raising taxes on the rich meant that his salary went down. I will tell you, when I talk to Chris, when I talk to working class people and poor people, they want rich people to make money because that's how they get paid.
I understand. The question becomes the Clinton taxes that we had.
Right.
I would say that the 90s were a heck of a lot more a boom time, and I'm not just talking about the tech boom. I'm talking about before that. People made out extremely well in the 1990s.
Before 1995,
with taxes at 39% on the highest level of income.
Before 1995, you're saying we had a great economy.
I think we had I'm talking about the entire. Did taxes go down in 95? I don't remember that.
Yeah, they did. Capital gains taxes went down.
I'm talking about the income tax, the 39%.
Listen, no, they didn't. But taxes, taxes and spending overall went down when you had a Republican Congress. And by the way, I'm not saying that economic boom, quote unquote boom, was such a great thing. There was lots of scandal in there. That was a bubble that, if it weren't for some of the measures taken,
you would trade the 90s for the 2000s.
Depends. I mean, listen. I think that the 1990s, when you had, by the way, when Bill Clinton was in office in 2000, and the Nasdaq stock market went from 5 to 2. Because of a massive economic bubble, that erased, I believe, $3 trillion of wealth from this economy. Now, what happened after that? Well, George,
how much wealth was erased in 2008?
Well, of course. You're talking about trillions, of course, but that's not what we're talking. We're talking about then. And I'm not. No, but think about it. But think about what you're saying. Think about what you're saying. You're telling me. But you're telling.
It all happened in 2008.
No, but wait. You're telling me that you're telling me what a great economy we had. You're telling. No, you get serious. You're telling me what a great economy you had in 1990 in the latter part of the 1990s.
I said in the 90s. I didn't say in the latter part of. I mean, you want to keep saying, well, but it's yes, the deficit went up, but not as a percentage of GDP or what happened in 2008.
That's because the economy grew. That's because the economy grew in the 80s.
The economy grew in the 90s.
Right, of course they grew, and then it blew up in 2000.
And it's not compared to 2008, Charlie.
Oh, well, not compared, yes, because of a lot of reasons. But I mean, Chris, you're making it sound like the 1990s, because we raised taxes, that we had this massive economic boom. And I'm telling you, if you look at the 1990s, just in terms of raising taxes.
I thought you were a conservative. Would you rather have a surplus, or would you rather have a deficit of $1 trillion?
Of course, I'd rather have a surplus. But when you walk in, when there's a bubble occurring under your watch, you're going to get economic growth.
Let me ask you a question. Why was it that the government that Bush and the Republican Congress had these tax cuts expire in 2010?
Didn't they cut a deal with Congress to basically extend them? I mean,
Charlie, the reason was, it's very simple, because everybody knew that if you looked at the budget going forward, there was no way that you were going to be able to control those deficits. And this is before 9/11 and before the war in Iraq and all of that. It was because the numbers didn't add up, and so that's why they were automatically going to lapse in 2011.
So you're saying that because they allowed them to lapse because they knew the budget would blow up because of the tax cuts?
Go back to history.
Why do you think? I can't believe. I don't know. I mean, I don't believe that. I study economics, and that is absurd.
Really? Then you tell me
that because of tax cuts. Well, who knows why? Maybe they cut a deal in Congress. I can't believe there's a rational. Chris, there can't be a rational economic argument that says we're lapsing tax cuts because we believe that the budget is going to blow up because of them.
Why did they do it, Charlie?
I mean, maybe there was a deal cut. I don't know. It's Democratic Party. There's Democratic Party dogma that says you have to keep taxes high. That is dogma.
So they said, okay, we'll just do it for this decade, but then after that, we'll forget it.
All right, we're going to agree to disagree. The only thing I will say that people are agreeing on in this is that there are mainstream economists, both left of center and right of center. Paul Krugman, left of center, others right of center. You can just pull them out of your hat, who say destimulating the economy right now is wrong, whether it's tax cuts or spending or whatever. You should not be destimulating.
So you're saying you should spend?
Whatever. If it's a tax cut, you shouldn't be destimulating.
So what are you saying?
No, I'm saying that mainstream economists, both left of center and right of center, saying anybody that destimulates the economy.
But both sides are destimulating the economy. Republicans
they're asking,
with fighting some of the spending, and Democrats with the tax
I agree,
increase.
But anybody to destimulate the economy is hurting the economy right now. Listen, I don't have a problem with. I think I'm getting a rap. I'm sorry, Chris. Thanks for joining us. What's on your show next week?
Oh, interesting. We're going to mention that. Well, we'll be talking with a guy who does understand the budget, Mitch Daniels, the governor of Indiana, who actually has been able to maintain a surplus. by keeping
by cutting.
By cutting spending.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, I think that, both sides need to talk about that. That's really the area.
All right, Chris. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Take it easy.
You too.
While Brian's away, the guest hosts play. You're listening to Charlie Gasparino from the Fox Business Network on Kilmeade and Friends.